Hi, we're Brian, Marisha, and Klaus. We just spent 2 months overlanding Mexico's Baja Peninsula. We learned a lot, so we're giving you everything we learned in one place. This is video 8 in a one-stop series of all things Baja. We've already covered route planning and maps, vehicle prep, packing, border crossing, fuel and water, roads, and on and off-grid camping. This is video 9 and the last in the series of all things Baja, covering all the little things like language, food, money, checkpoints, and pets. All right, welcome back.
Buenos dias.
This is the last and final video of our Baja series.
Finally getting it out. Apologize for the sporadic.
Yeah. It's only a year late.
But we appreciate you following for sure.
And thanks for watching this whole series. It's been a long time coming and a little difficult to do, but hope you guys are learning a bunch from it. And we're gonna finish the last video with just a bunch of miscellaneous topics of the trip. Next category, which is language. We do not speak Spanish. I speak what I call survival Spanish. The more you learn, the more, I think, the better experience you're gonna have.
It's so much more fun and people react to you so much more positively when you're trying to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And your fallback is your Google Translator.
Oh yeah.
And be aware, you can download offline on Google Translator.
Do it before you go.
Do not overlook that. Do it before you go to download it, and then you can use it without a signal. So,
and it works for scanning like
menus
words
or
at the gas
signs.
pump.
Yeah, you can just use your camera to translate anything with your camera on Google Translate as well.
Or just speak into it and have somewhat of a conversation with a local. But we learned the hard way that you have to have service to use it, but you can download it offline beforehand. Food. Food's awesome, by the way.
It is delish.
We tried to eat as much street food as possible.
Yeah. Our general rule of thumb is if they have plastic chairs or is under a tent,
if there's locals eating there,
that's where you want to be.
So we went to this awesome taco joint. We had delicious tacos and they were incredible because they were grilled meats, not greasy, super yummy.
Highly recommend to get better food and cheaper. A lot of times you don't have a lot of ambiance, but
ambiance is fun.
You see some interesting things going on at some of these places, which is awesome.
And if you're going to be cooking on your own, a lot of times, which we did as well, major town will have a grocery store, and the little markets almost always have, even in the middle of nowhere, will always have at least a couple of refrigerator cases with some fresh produce and eggs and milk and just the necessities that you would need.
Very limited. I just got one box of everything, so you want to be first come, first served with the... You do need to plan your food.
Yeah.
When you're in a larger city, in a larger grocery store, plan your food.
Yeah, plan for like a week, like a menu.
Yeah.
And produce doesn't last long down there just because of the heat and the humidity. So one thing that we kind of learned part way is we would buy a bunch of fruit and right before, as it was starting to go bad, throw it in the freezer. Because later on, you're going to be really psyched that you made yourself a nice cold smoothie. When everything, your water and everything you have is warm. So.
Yeah, your water gets warm. We started making ice like halfway through too, which we didn't even know we could really make ice in our fridge. But that freezer works great.
Yeah, and you don't realize how much you love ice.
Oh, yeah.
Until you can't have it.
Yeah.
And then it became like our biggest luxury was an iced beverage.
We could only make a couple trays a day. And so each of us would get one cold glass a day.
Yeah.
And you need it for your tequila probably as well.
Or if the group went to a grocery store, we would all share a bag. We had 3 cars with us.
Oh, that's true.
First half of the trip, we would all share a bag of ice. And then just fill up your Nalgene's, fill up like whatever you can fill up with ice.
Yeah.
Ice is a big deal. And just plan on not being able to get all your favorite things whenever you want them. So the major cities you can find health food and US type food. We didn't find hummus one time, the entire time we were down there. I was craving it so bad. And we did want a bag of granola once and it was $17. So we didn't buy the granola.
That's true.
So certain kind of health foods are crazy expensive. So we just tried to eat local fresh things as
You're going to get mainstream stuff. So if you have a
Yeah.
restrictive diet, then plan around that restrictive diet. Make sure you're bringing as much as you can.
So there you go for food. Money.
Cha-ching!
Yeah, ATMs are not everywhere, by the way. When you have a chance to get cash out of an ATM, get it in bigger chunks, and because you're not going to find them as often, and it's expensive.
I would recommend bringing down as much as you feel comfortable bringing down, depending on how long you're going to be in Mexico. The ATMs just rip you off. Like it's almost like 25% in fees.
Yeah.
Because they screw you on the exchange rate. They do this couple different service fees and transaction fees on top of that. And if I remember right, it ended up being 25+% in fees to do the exchange rate.
It was a lot.
You go through a lot of military checkpoints while you're in Baja. Those people are usually, our experience was very friendly. It's nothing too intimidating. They just ask where you're coming from, where you're going to. They'll walk through your vehicle really quick.
Yep.
And etc. And I think we probably talked about some of that. Those checkpoints on previous?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
We will.
We just did.
We just did. So yeah, they'll just have those periodically as you go down the peninsula in Baja, where they'll have a military checkpoint. There'll be one gentleman that will talk to you and another dude with a big machine gun. And when you roll up, it just kind of seems a little, you know, a little unsettling or whatever, but
Seems intimidating, but they were always
super nice.
very nice. They were more interested in the dog.
Yeah, we had Klaus with us, and they were always talking about Klaus and stuff. And so they're just be chatty with them.
Yeah. Yep. And then some guys gave us like tips on where to surf.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, they're
and how to get there, what roads to take, and what roads not to take. And so if you are in that area, you might want to ask them, for some advice on whatever you're trying to conquer.
Yep. If you plan on traveling to Baja with a pet, specifically a dog.
There's a few things to keep in mind.
Yes. And we already covered in the crossing the border section all the paperwork you will need to cross the border, but this covers some of the things you'll need once you're there.
Safety.
Yes.
Number one.
Yeah.
A lot of animals. Donkeys, cows, goats, snakes, other dogs,
Ooh.
stray dogs,
Coyotes.
guard dogs, coyote dogs.
Yeah. So with that being said, we had a regular leash that we brought with us just to use for walks. And we also had about like 20 foot rope, maybe 25 foot rope that we would use also in case any of those dangers were around. We would tie Klaus up with that just for his own safety.
Yeah, and that's something you can decide based on how well your dog listens to you. If your dog doesn't listen to you, or you're in denial, thinking that your dog listens to you, but it really doesn't, you definitely want to make sure you keep your eyes on them, because if they go wandering off or chasing after some things, it might not work out well for them. And so that's just something to consider. Things can always come up to you.
Well, hey. Good morning.
But it's nice to be able to at least keep your dog from running after some things. So just keep that in mind just for safety purposes, because depending on where you're at, there's not going to be a lot of veterinarian access. It's only going to be the larger cities where you're going to have a vet. And there's only a handful of towns that, like, what we'd even begin to guess that would have a vet.
Yeah.
You know, stuff close to the border, you're going to have plenty of veterinarians. But if you start going south in the California Sur, going to be limited.
And based off that, make sure you have a really good pet first aid kit. Like Klaus had his own. So wraps, in case, they hurt a paw or something, you got to be able to, or even cut themselves, you have to be able to wrap it so they can't get to it.
If they do get hurt, you're going to have to wrap it and clean it and wrap it and clean it. Epsom salt to soak paws in is probably also a smart thing to bring. So if they do get a cut on their paw or something along those lines, you're going to soak that in Epsom salt to pull out any infection, and then you're going to want to wrap that. So a lot of that stretchy stuff that kind of sticks when you wrap it, you're going to want to do that for dogs, because you're going to want to put a bandage on it, and then you're going to want to wrap it. And then you're going to need to do that twice a day at minimum. And so make sure you bring a decent amount, not just one or two little wrappy squares.
We brought a flexible cone So in case he did get hurt, we would have that.
Yeah, they don't all have to be plastic. They make these materials that you can kind of fold down into a miniature little triangle, and then you fold them out, and then they kind of flop around. That's what we brought with. So it doesn't take up any space,
Yep.
and that'll keep them from biting at certain things if they get an injury.
Yep. And then just basic medications like a mild pain reliever, you know, Benadryl or something in case they get bit by something and have a reaction. So just make sure you have a really good first aid kit for your dog.
That's also ocean stuff too, because there's stingrays.
Yeah.
And jellyfish and things of that nature that's in the water. So there's always a chance that you might get something going on in the water as well as on land.
Boots. We brought, Klaus is older and his feet were pretty sensitive, but I think in Baja any dog could really use them. Loves his boots. The ground gets nuclear hot in a lot of places, especially in the towns. And then everywhere else you are besides the beach, it's just cactus mania. Don't want to walk around here barefoot. Treacherous.
Yeah, everything has a spike on it.
Yeah.
When they're running around in the desert, there's always spikes on everything. So yeah, just be careful.
Do you guys think we pamper our dog too much? This is why Klaus wears boots. Look at that thing. We don't want him to yeah, we don't want him to step on that. Right, Klaus? You got boots. You got boots.
Bring a decent amount, so if there's an injury, you have enough to go 4 or 5 days and keep it clean and yada yada.
Food. So we brought about a month's worth of food with us, knowing that along the way we would have to probably rebuy some. If you have a small dog, you'd probably be fine bringing the amount we brought, but a bigger dog, there was no way we could lug around 2 months worth of food. So keep in mind that if you're running low and you are in a major town, that's probably where you're going to want to look for replacement dog food. That's where you're going to find the better quality stuff. Otherwise, in the smaller towns, in the little markets, they usually had dog food, but it's dog chow. And there was like one kind, one brand everywhere, and that's about it.
Yeah, or if you're going all the way to the end of the peninsula and that's what your plan is, plan on stocking up on whatever supplies you need in San Jose.
Yep. Same goes with treats, any kind of bully sticks or rawhides you want to bring with. We didn't really see any of that except for in the major pet store in San Jose. So anything that your dog, toys, water toys, their comfort. So a lot of people had asked how Klaus, because he's a long-haired shepherd, and everyone asked how he was doing with the heat, and it was pretty hot, but I think the rule of thumb is if you can keep them wet and in the shade, especially right before bed, he seemed pretty fine.
He's a swimmer.
Nudie loves to swimmy swims. Good job, bud.
So loves the water. So during the course of the day, he'd be getting in and out of the water consistently, and that would cool him down. So we didn't really have any issues there. If your dog's not a swimmer though, and then plan on, when you're doing your water planning, plan on having water to cool down your dog as well.
And we also had a small USB plug-in fan for Klaus that just blew on his bed at night or when we were driving. So just some sort of small little climate control device for them. Just a mini fan works great. As far as all the last little miscellaneous stuff, hopefully we're not forgetting anything, but I think all in all, it was an awesome trip that I would want to do again.
Oh, for sure. It was fantastic. Went really well. We got really lucky. We didn't have any major vehicle issues. We didn't have any physical injuries. So all in all, A+.
Yeah.
Usually there's something that's going sideways. Klaus didn't get hurt either, so that was good.
No.
Everything went really, really well, and we had a blast, and it's incredible. The route that we did, we were just talking about the other day randomly, and it's like, I don't know why I would do it any different. We covered so much, hit so many beaches.
We covered all the landscapes for sure. Like we hit at least one of all the different kind of landscapes that Baja has, and definitely a lot of beach time, because that was kind of our main goal for going down there. But
so if you're going down the first time, I would still recommend.
I would hit everything.
I would still hit everything that we hit.
Yeah.
Don't get sucked in and stay there too long though. Like, oh, this is great. First 2 beaches you saw on the trip, and you're like, oh, this is fantastic. It is fantastic, and there's going to be awesome beaches all the way down too.
Yeah.
The quicker you get to Baja Sur, the more chill it is.
Yeah.
And the more free it is, meaning there's a lot more space to camp, and the further you get away from the U.S. border, the towns get smaller, crime goes down. And so just keep that in mind. Don't just get all JoJo at the beginning, burn a bunch of time, and then have to cut things short in Baja Sur. Baja Sur is a better place to be, more chill place to be.
More wild camping.
More overlanding down there too.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's just the heads up. If we were to do it again, we'd do it a little bit different because we've been down there. But if you took our agenda, our main goal was to be off concrete as much as possible.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at our agenda, that's what our goal was. We wanted to go the long distances on off-roads to get to some of the beaches. And you saw in our videos that a lot of those beaches, there's no one there except for us. And those are the ones where it's an hour-and-a-half off-road drive. Sometimes it's in and back on the same road. It doesn't make a loop. Don't cut those out. Just because it's in and back, don't cut them out.
No, those were some of our favorite spots,
yeah,
actually.
It's inefficient for sure, but that's also the more inefficiency / difficult it is to get to,
the better you'll be.
You're not going to be running into a lot of people.
And it seemed like the more remote beaches that we found to camp on, they tend to be less overlander spots and more sailboat spots.
And that's what's kind of cool too. You might be the only car on the beach, but then you have all the boaters that will come in, and you make friends so fast. And they're not there all the time. So they'll just come in the morning to do something. Like they had yoga classes. All the people that wanted to do yoga in the morning would come from there's probably like 7 boats in one bay that I can think of. And then they had about 8 people in their yoga class in the morning, and they'll do that on the beach. They'll do a sunset kind of just happy hour on the beach to get off the boats and get on land. And so it's kind of cool to interact with the folks that are on the boats, and then we're kind of in the vehicle, all with the same goals, just a different mode of transportation.
So hopefully you guys are inspired enough to take the trip yourself. At some point will post our entire, the exact route that we went. So I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, but
yeah, we'll figure that out. And another thing to keep in mind, depending on how much time you have, because as a reminder, we were down there for 2 months.
Yeah.
You can make your way down one coast or the other and then take the highway back. True. It's not that long to get down to San Jose at the southernmost tip of Baja.
So I guess it all depends on time.
Yeah. Our general trip, we moseyed on down the East Coast, went around and moseyed on back the West Coast for our agenda to complete 2 months. You can modify that in many ways to make that shorter.
So, hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I hope you go yourselves, because it's totally worth it.
Yeah, and if there's any questions that we're not covering, just hit us up, and we'd be happy to get back to you on any questions, fill in any gaps, and if we need to do another video that we're missing a lot of stuff, we'll do that as well.
We will. All right, guys, thanks for joining, and hopefully next week you'll see the start of a new series of a really cool overlanding trip we just finished.
Yeah, we're back on the road with Carlos.
Yep, Carlos is in, so we're starting a whole new chapter with Mr. Carlos.
Carlos is a handful.
He's a natural at the van life, but he's a handful.
Yeah. More to come.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys.
Gracias, amigos.
Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Adventure is calling.